Hey everyone, on this episode of Teeter Talks, I had a chance to finally chat with my friend Kristina Bartold. She is the CEO of the Social Snippet. Her amazing social media marketing company is actually the company that produces this very podcast. That's how we met. And she has just been such an integral part of my community since the day we met. She's such a force for entrepreneurs, for women in business, for all things, bringing amazing people together. I'm super grateful to her. We have such a good time on this podcast, lots of laughs, lots of information. You're really going to enjoy it. Everybody, please enjoy my conversation with Kristina Bartold. Hello, Kristina.
Hi, Marissa. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited you're here. I mean, we've rescheduled this a few times. I don't blame you. I blame the child that you are carrying.
Yeah, honestly, you can blame my unborn child on this because I've never experienced a season where I've had to cancel more on anything. So it's been humbling where it's like going to people being like, I'm not a bad person, just so you know. And, but I'm just growing a child and I'm kind of dead inside. So, but I'm on the up.
Well, you know what, though? You are now coming into a season of life where you can blame everything on your children. Like it is going to be the greatest get out of jail free ticket that you will have for the rest of your life. So, even though the child is not even here yet, you get to leverage that excuse as much as you'd like. That is the right of a parent. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. And I'm so excited. And also, I feel like I have to do a public apology to all women I've ever judged for being pregnant. Because I was always kind of like, yeah, you're like round and holding a baby, like you're fine. And they're not fine. We're not fine. We're
No.
not fine. And I was always like, wow, like pregnancy brain, that's not real. And then I'm sitting there, I'm like, what does that word mean? I can't remember
Yeah.
what that word means. Like nuts.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm starting to get on the other side.
Yeah, it's a thing. I'm not going to lie to you. And the pregnancy brain is real. I remember, oh my gosh, my grandfather has since passed, but he had Alzheimer's, and I would call him, we'd chat, and he would just say, "Oh, I'm forgetting things, and I listened to what I did today." And I said, "Hey, that's nothing. I couldn't find the milk for a good 5 hours, and I eventually found it in the baby room in the closet." And we would, we would swap stories
Aw.
of Alzheimer's versus pregnancy brain because it is real. I do want to know though. I mean, I suspect you're getting so much unsolicited advice.
Yes.
Any like good nuggets that you've gotten so far that you just, or like by good I mean ridiculous nuggets? And please, hopefully, it's nothing that I've shared with you.
No, your stuff has been really helpful. You know what's interesting is that I don't get a lot of nuggets, but what I will say, it's interesting from an entrepreneur perspective of
Oh yes,
how many women have thoughts about mat leave,
yes.
and what is the expectation that women should have. So it's
Hmm.
um people will be like, well, make sure you take a year off, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be taking a year. I just based on my business, but who knows?
Right.
While other women are so oh, this is actually gonna give you purpose. You're gonna need, when I was on my mat leave, I needed more purpose. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it's just interesting how people kind of project their own
Yeah.
experiences. That's been kind of the most interesting part for me is that I'm like, if I don't go on a mat leave, I'm gonna let down that woman. And if I go on a super long mat leave, these women are gonna be disappointed in me. So it's
Yes.
tough.
Well, there's no winning. Breastfeed, don't breastfeed, work, don't work. I'll tell you, this is throughout my career, I've had this conversation with so many women in terms of
Yeah.
what to do post baby when you're thinking about it before you even had the baby or after you've had the baby. And the reality is you can't make that decision today. You have to be in the thick of it to actually know how you feel about it and to know what you want. And you've got to give yourself the grace and space to say, wow, I didn't expect to feel this way. Or yeah, I guess I kind of figured. I mean, I know women who are super high performing corporate. And again, I don't want to judge or create stereotypes, but arguably there were women that I thought would be back at work within days of giving birth, right?
Yeah.
Just the type of women they were. They had businesses or they had jobs. And, they were the ones who thought they would be back at work. And, I know some who took years off until their kids were back in school full time. And there's, again, no shame in that. It's certainly a privilege if you can be in a situation to be able to do that. But you do bring in an interesting element about being an entrepreneur is just the idea of, sometimes you got to consider all the options because if you're not there, who is going to run your business, right? And I know you've got a great partner in Maria and you've got a whole team of wonderful people, but it's that added pressure of being an entrepreneur for sure, of thinking about what does life look like after this, which again, it could go back to being very much the same with small nuances, or it could look totally different for you. And all of those are absolutely okay. I will say The one thing that surprised me, we were talking about this earlier about things that women don't talk about after they have a baby. Your baby's fingernails will grow at a rapid rate. Like they will have daggers like a dragon. You should know this. I mean, I was so terrified to cut my kids' nails for the first, I don't even know how, like for my daughter, I got good at it by the time my son came around, but she wore socks on her hands for months. And I was so afraid to cut her nails. I would wait for my friend who had kids to come over and cut them.
Oh yeah, it's so
So
funny.
be prepared for like the daggers. Even when they're born, they come out and it's like, you can't help but notice the acrylic nails on your child. Like it's just unbelievable. So if you need someone to help come cut your kids' nails, I can do that because I asked for help. And now when I do it, I kind of laugh. I'm like, why was this so stressful? Like, why did I think I was
It's so
performing
funny.
minor surgery and I was afraid to chop off my kid's nail every time I did this? But yeah, watch out for those daggers.
You know what's so funny is that you know registries, right? When you make a
Yes.
registry for, so
Yes.
like my baby shower is coming up, and so we have these registries, and we're like putting things on it. And the thing that I found the most unusual one is like people were like, make sure you get like the filer, like in the nails, and I was
Mhm.
like, my nails don't grow that fast. Like, how is this baby I'm gonna be doing manicures on this child? But like,
Yes.
okay. The other thing is the snot sucking.
Oh my God, you will love the snot sucker. I still have it, and my kids are 9 and 11. I don't use it on them, but when
Oh,
my
I was
nephew,
like,
no, I use it on my husband. No, um, when my nephew comes over, he's 2. I use it on him because my brother and my sister-in-law are like, he hates it. We don't use it. I'm like, yeah, he hates it, but it works. And my kids and everyone just looks at me and shakes their head. But I have a good system now. I give him chocolate milk after I do it. I mean, I don't do it all the time. I do it when he's sick and congested,
yeah,
obviously.
like, that's like a
And
phase
I don't do
after.
it for sport. Like it's not my favorite sport. But my God, like the snot sucker is amazing. You will enjoy it. Your
Well, it's
kid
just
won't.
funny. It's just a funny thing. Like it's like the things you don't think about, but that people need for
Yes.
babies. Like, and it's
Mhm.
just, yeah, it's just interesting, especially because I didn't grow up with babies, and like I don't have
Right.
like a lot of like children in my family. Like my husband's family has a ton of kids, so I'm really blessed by like, Josh's cousins who have like really poured into me, because I'm like, even with pregnancy, I'm like, what does this mean? Like,
Yeah.
why does this matter? Like, why do
Yeah.
I feel like this? Like, it's this weird like unspoken thing. But the minute you put the lock off the box with a woman,
Mm.
they're like, oh, and then my C-section, and I'm like, oh my God, like, so it's just,
I'm surprised she remembers. I feel like I don't remember that time in my life because it was so chaotic. And every once in a while, I'll tell my husband, "Oh, like we should have another kid." And he's so generous. He always says, "You can, just not with me," which is very kind of him. Also, I think a trap. But he's like, "Do you not remember sleep deprived Marissa? Because I remember her. She's a
oh,
real party."
that's
So
so
I just
funny.
think we block that out, which is why we go on to have multiple children. But
100%. And
yeah,
honestly, I remember feeling this, not that it's the same thing, but I remember feeling that about getting a puppy. I was like, why do people do this over and over again? Like, this is so brutal. They're so cute, but like evil. And now I'm like, do you think we get a second dog like while we have this baby? And my husband's like, do you remember how miserable you were? And I'm like, no.
no, I don't.
Um, but yeah, it's like honestly, it's also like entrepreneurship. You kind of
Yeah.
like forget when you're in the low, and then when you come up on the high, you're like, so good. Where's my yacht? You
Yeah,
know?
let's start another business. Like I could
Yeah.
do this with my eyes closed. Yeah. Well, speaking of entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
let's talk about your business. You run an amazing business. You've built an incredible community. You and I met because I launched this podcast almost a year ago, and I was looking for an amazing partner to help produce it and kind of tell me everything I didn't know but needed to know. And you and your amazing company, The Social Snippet, I've been working with you guys ever since, and you take such good care of me. I'm kind of curious how you landed in this social media, digital marketing space. Tell me a little bit more about that journey to starting the Social Snippet.
Yeah, it's a random one, truly. Like, so community has always been kind of like my heart. Really, has
Yes.
always been about like building community in different ways. And I used to work at the multiple universities. I worked in Res
Mhm.
Life. I worked in student activities. I like loved that. And honestly, I say this all the time, that like there's this meme that's like, you looked like you were heavily involved on campus. People send it to me all the time, and I'm like, they didn't even know that I was.
Nobody
So,
has ever sent that to me. So
were
what
you
does that
heavily
say
involved
about
on
me?
campus? I knew you
No.
painted.
Oh, yes, I had a student painting company, which is in the summers, but no, I mean, I would say not until my later years did I become more of a joiner. I was a pretty introverted person, but I can picture that for you. I could totally picture you being like a Dawn and
Yeah.
like leading the whole thing. Like I could see that for you. You still have that kind of energy. I totally sense that in you. That's amazing.
Honestly, if entrepreneurship doesn't work out, which it has to this point, I would have no problem going back. I loved it. But yeah, so I did that for a number of years. And in that time, I got like my master's in
Mhm.
conflict resolution. I did a master's in leadership, and I used to, really manage teams. I used to facilitate Myers-Briggs for people. Like that was kind of my jam. I loved that. And during the pandemic, like kind of right around that time, I also did some freelance social media management because I was bored, I guess. I've always been someone who's had like lots of things going on.
Mhm.
And I've always understood how social worked. I've always been like,
Yeah.
this is how you sell online. This is how business could use it. I've always really understood sales. In a way, the community building stuff I did, like there was an aspect of sales in it that
Yeah.
I wouldn't have said then, but now I understand, right? Like getting people to come to activities, getting people to be
Yes.
bought in, getting people to be bought into rules. Like there was like a lot of like, selling that would
It's so
happen.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, which I wouldn't have said at that time. And I've never said that on a podcast, but you got it out of me 10 minutes in. But
I'm gonna play that over and over. But no, I know what you're saying. Like I too, I like to get involved in my community and work with different charities. But a lot of bringing support to charities is selling people on getting involved or participating or donating, and it's kind of rallying around the cause and getting people to buy into the cause. And
yeah,
yeah, building community takes an extreme amount of sales. I mean, it's bordering on building a cult, but that's not what
yeah,
you're doing.
yeah, you got to do what you got to do to stay alive
Like the
out here.
same but different. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I did that for a number of years. I would do freelance social. I worked at universities. I managed dons, and then I managed people who managed dons, and I managed people who managed dons, and
Wow.
like so I just kind of kept growing. I worked in student conduct. I just like loved kind of student life, and I loved supporting
Mhm.
students, and but I always had this kind of itch of feeling like I was kind of made for something different.
Yeah.
All the jobs I had. I worked at U of G. I worked at the University of Waterloo. I worked at a small campus at Waterloo called St. Jerome's. And I was always entrepreneurial in the jobs I did. Like I was somebody who would like every job I did it by the end of the time I was done it was like a completely different job. Like I would always vision for my jobs. I was the person who went to every conference. I like always wanted to learn, learn, learn. And so as that was happening, COVID hit and I liked my job a lot, but it had changed a lot like during COVID. Res looked different. So I started doing some like coaching. Like I had a master's in leadership. So I was like, working with people with Myers-Briggs and talking to people about personal development. People had a lot of time. And I was doing all my selling online. It was fast. Like it was people were buying like
Wow.
rapidly. And it was interesting because it was like people were buying something that I had never sold before. People didn't really know about my like kind of social media stuff. I kept that kind of DL. Um, and then it was actually growing so much that I hired Maria to come be like my virtual assistant
Ah,
because I was like, Maria, like I can't keep up with these graphics. I'm not good at this. Can you do this piece? And she was great. Like she's very design
yeah, she's
focused.
amazing.
Yeah. And so we started doing that. And then people would be like, would you do like my social? And I'd be like, maybe, because I love opportunity. And Maria would be like, no, no. Maria would be like, I don't want to do people's social because I actually don't think that that's like what I'm meant to do on this earth. I just like don't think it's that impactful. Yeah. And I remember being
Interesting.
like, okay, okay. And then this opportunity came up where a friend of ours closed her agency down and she had 2 clients. And she was like, would you just do these client social? I'm pregnant. I like need to get away from this. Like, help me. And I was like, I would do it, but I wouldn't do it without Maria. So like, you need to convince Maria to do it with me. So my friend messages Maria and Maria messages me. She's like, do you think this is God intervening? Like, and I'm like,
Divine
might be
intervention.
God, might be me. Either way.
Either
But
or.
yeah, so we started that day. I built our website that
Wow.
night and we started working together, Maria and I, and like so it just rolled fast.
Yeah.
And so that was almost 4 years ago. And so for the first like year and a half or 2 years, we did social media. We grew our team over that time. Like it started with 10 clients and 20, then 30. And then we started offering a podcast about maybe almost 2 years ago. And now collectively we have about 85 clients that we work with, kind of like day in and
Wow.
day out, which is amazing. But all of that's come really from me and Maria kind of working together, building community. And that's where High Vibe Women was born. And so it's been like a lot of growth over the years. Business doesn't look the same as it did a few years ago. But what's been cool is that community has always been kind of the core of it. It's
Mhm.
like, we're not like, oh, hey, work with us because we're going to get you viral. It's like, no, we're going to work with you and we're going to help you really like enhance your community and like build relationships with your followers that lead to sales overall. But that help people really know, like, and trust you. And so yeah, that's been kind of our full journey.
It's amazing. I've never heard that story.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because you two are such a nice yin and yang together. Like even just watching you interact on stage at your High Vibe Women's event, which you talked about, which I want to talk more about. It's just, you guys are such a lovely complement to each other. And I think what a great gift to have a business partner that, it just looks like you guys are kind of two perfect parts to kind of make this happen. So I'm really
Oh,
happy for you too. And yeah, you talked about community. You hosted that panel that I was on. We talked about community at your event, and it was a really great conversation that really reminded me, we think sometimes community in a traditional way, right? Out in the community, but also like, who are your people?
yeah.
And I've, this journey that I've been on over the last year, kind of going from corporate to entrepreneurship and launching my business and my podcast, it 100% has been my community. Like the number one reason why I am here today and telling you that, I was able to build a six-figure business kind of within the first 6 months is because of my community. These are just people
Totally.
that are there. They're real people. They are people I've connected with in different ways that I've built kind of trust equity with over time. Tell me a bit about this desire to build community. I think it's evolved for you probably over the years. It probably looks different, but you are just so, you kind of alluded to this. I mean, you do have this social media, social marketing company, but you're doing so much outside of that to actually build a community of female entrepreneurs and business owners and just good people. And I don't even know if you're making money off that, but I just, it's so powerful. But I want to know what drives that in you, and what are you seeing as the impact of really prioritizing building community?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that has always been me and Maria's focus, like right
Yeah.
from when we started the social snippet, was like we were both so aligned. And part of this is too, in me and Maria's story is that Maria and I, when I worked at the university, Maria was like a student leader of mine. So like I like managed Maria in this season. So we
Okay.
always like laugh because I taught her how to use a Google Calendar because it was like rough for a while there. And I was like, you need to know where you're going to be at all times. Like, and this is how you're going to organize your
I
life.
love it.
And now she's like married to it. But in that time we would run activities for people and like we would run these like, conferences and we did like all this stuff. So everything's been a training ground to this point. Like this, like that's really what we believe is that like all these experiences we've had have led us here. And why I'm so passionate about community for business owners and for entrepreneurs is because I know that that's what helps people move the needle in their businesses is
Yeah.
that like when we think about the core of business, like when people were farmers, like you have apples, you have lettuce, you have oranges, we trade, we do this, like, and we love to do business with people that we love to do business with, like
Yeah.
that we like, we know, we trust. And so I knew like early on, like community is basically something we've always invested in, like kind of right from the beginning. Any opportunity where we could go meet people in person, where we could talk to them, where we could pour in, where we could add value, that has always been
Yeah.
our priority. And so our business scaled really quickly as well, probably similar numbers to the way that you did. And we built our seven-figure business in 3 years. Like we like really prioritize like people, like that was really it. We do a lot of things for free, but we've also done like, lots of like amazing like partnerships and, like
Mhm.
joint ventures and like different things like that. And that's actually what led to High Vibe Women, which is our community for entrepreneurial women here in Canada, that because we saw that there was this gap of like opportunity where people like couldn't, it felt like there wasn't like a space for women to network. Like,
Right.
there's like golf courses for men or whatever. And, if you knew women, maybe you'd be invited around a table, but there wasn't somewhere where people could like, it felt like could opt in to being like part of a larger community and a larger mission. And we've seen people's businesses, like including ours, absolutely transform from being in a room like that, where you sit next to someone and they're 5 steps ahead of you and they have the solution to all of
Mm.
your problems.
Mhm.
Or like, and I know social does that and I know the online world does that and you can pay for mentorship. And I actually think everyone should pay for coaching and mentorship,
Mhm.
like at least in some capacity. But really like I've seen how community can shape like people's businesses and their lives. And so that's been so important to me, has been like really, do we make money on it? Yes. But like, would I do it for free? Totally. Because it
Yeah.
has been such an amazing experience of seeing people transform.
Yeah, I mean, the High Vibe Women's event was remarkable. I know you host these a few times a year. I know you've got an upcoming one in Burlington, Ontario in October. And what a coming together of remarkable women. And what's most important is like, not everybody's at the same place in their lives. Not everybody is running the same type of business, but everyone is there because they really want to learn and connect, do better, be better, contribute, share. It's really kind of an alignment of what people are trying to achieve. And it's really lovely. And I thank you again for inviting me to that and giving me some time to be on stage and speak to your group.
You're
I've made so
amazing.
many wonderful connections. And to your point, I mean, I often ask people, and not just in the entrepreneurial space, but in life, who's your community? And, we talked about this kind of personal board of directors, but, and not even something so formalized, like who do you see as your community? I mean, who are your people? And hopefully everybody has a good handle on who the people are that they can go to and the people that will be there for them. And sometimes in life we get surprised in the good moments and the bad, who are really there to step up and, asking these people for favors or support and knowing that we would do the same for them. Building your community is so, so important. And, I want to talk a bit about the idea of, the online versus in person, because you and I have had this conversation before. So you're really helping people build a social presence, an online presence. You have tools and weapons that allow them to really do that. And you and I have talked about kind of online success versus real life business success.
Yeah.
How do you manage that for your clients where, I could come to you and say, I want tons of followers, I want tons of likes, I want to do this. Is there a point in that conversation where you're talking to your clients about, well, okay, why and how do you plan? Because I do think that's even with my clients, they're like, well, I want to blow up social media and I want to start a podcast. I'm like, okay, so why? And have we exhausted all the other things that are trying to drive your business or help you meet your various KPIs for your business? How do you connect those dots between social media success and real business success?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think it's a tough one because even Marissa, like I'll tell you, sometimes I'll do discovery calls with people and I'm like, I actually don't think you're doing enough in person to warrant like being successful on social. In my opinion, there's almost like two types of businesses that are successful on social. Like one is um like your typical in-person business, right? Where it's like maybe I just did a session this morning for a number of realtors. And I was like, your social media post might not be what sells, but it is the social proof that people need that you're successful, you're doing things that
Right.
you're kind of,
Legitimizes you. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
100%. So we see this even on LinkedIn, right? Where like people are on LinkedIn, they're doing their thing. LinkedIn's an amazing platform to be a thought leader on. I know you're active
Yeah.
there. Only 1% of people who post on LinkedIn, or sorry, 1% of users of LinkedIn post on LinkedIn. So it's like a great opportunity to be a thought leader. But is that going to be the thing that someone sees a post and immediately they buy? Maybe not.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm like, your in-person network makes a big difference where, and then there's like where you can actually make huge impact where people meet you in person and they go and they check out your social, they see that you're legit. It's kind of like bang, bang, bang. And then there's the difference between being that and then being a digital entrepreneur. And a digital entrepreneur, I think to me, are people who sell online,
Right.
exclusively online.
Right.
So it's like the people who are, $37 like opt-in and this course and this opportunity and this membership and that. And it's really easy to get sucked into that. Like it's easy to be like easy to be sucked into investing in that.
Right.
But two, it's really easy to think that that's like the number one way to make like passive income, which is never passive. I'm just telling you.
I
Like
love that word. It's my favorite.
I know someone one time said to me, and I'll like literally never forget it. And every time I see him, I bring it up. But he said, "Oh my God, your agency must be so nice because it's just passive income for you." I'm
What?
like, we have like a team of 20 plus. What part of managing people is passive? Like, I was texting with somebody at 6 p.m. last night. Not, there's no passive.
There's no
Um,
passive. No.
yeah, my husband's gonna tell you that my work's not passive. Yeah, when Josh edits this episode, he's telling you it's not passive. But it's just funny because I do think that a big piece of it is that like, digital entrepreneurship is on the rise, and people get really excited about kind of that sexy idea of like kind of again passive income.
Yes.
You can live anywhere, you can do that, and does that work? Yes, but still doesn't work if you don't have a community.
Yeah. And I think your distinction was so powerful. Like, are people buying from you online or are they going online to decide if they're going to buy from you?
Yeah, 100%.
Right. Which is maybe an interesting, maybe there's a small nuance there, but I think it's enough to understand because I think a lot of people get concerned about their online presence and invest a lot of time and energy in it and then go, why isn't this working? And you're like, well, what were you trying to achieve from this? Right. Were you really trying to get customers from this or were you trying to help expedite maybe the decision process for your customers so that they can see you in different places and see what you do and buy into you and maybe shorten the timeline that, for them to purchase. But yeah, I think it's an important conversation because there's a lot of pressure, I think. And, my goal is, I don't want to be Instagram famous, but I want people, if they hear about me or learn about me, that they can find me and check me out and go, oh yeah, what the type of content she posts resonates with me, and what I can find about her makes sense to me and clicks with me. But yeah, I certainly, we had this conversation about, my husband always asking me, do you have any new followers? And I'm like, for a guy who doesn't have any social media, you do sure give a lot of craps about followers. Like that's not gonna make us money, honey. Like it's not,
No. And like, I think and you and I, we both know Ariana, and like Ariana's an influencer, right? Like and she does amazing work, right?
Yeah.
And like, does that make money? Yeah. Like, but is that the norm? No. And so I think that that's what people expect when they're on social, is that they're going to grow and grow and grow. And even like one of the people who I recently had a discovery call with, he has a decent following, like it's fine. And he's like, how far am I from a Home Depot collaboration? I was like, pretty far, because your stuff isn't about housing or anything to do with construction. So like, I think we're far. And he was like, oh, okay. And he was like, but like, I've got a following. And I'm like, that doesn't make you an influencer.
Right. Yeah.
And so there is so many different ways to monetize online. Like I have a decent following. I would not consider myself an influencer. I don't do like a ton of influencer content. Every once in a while something happens and I'm like, oh, how fun. But like, it's not like, that's not the norm of what's going to be paying my child's education. So I think it's like knowing about where you want to make money and what is going to actually move the needle for you. Because I think social media is one of those things where I totally agree. A big part of it is like, it's that social proof.
Yeah.
I'll give you another example. One of my clients, they sell a $60,000 product. So that like, people aren't buying that off of Instagram.
Right.
Like,
here's my credit card. I'll DM you my credit card number. Yes.
Yeah, Marissa, I'm holding you to that. But actually, I'll tell you later what the product is. You're not going to need it. But
okay.
But it's
now I'm just curious. No.
Yes, it's $60,000 product. Have they gotten ROI from working with us? Yes, because over time, people are seeing it. They target like municipalities. They target all these people. So it's like, in that way, it's like, are they getting ROI on social? Of course. Is it easy for me to say this post made you $60,000? No. And people they go and then they check that they're legit. They check out their website. There's all these things that work together. And that's the other thing, Marissa, I think a lot of people miss with social, is that they really are like holding on to social like it's like a lifeboat.
Right.
And they're like,
the golden ticket. Yes.
Yeah, this is my way. And it's like, but you have a crappy website.
Right.
Or you like, so I'm like, so when people go, they're not going to buy because of the website. Or like, you're running ads and the ads are bad. Like, that's not social's fault, right? So it's an ecosystem that needs to be built.
And to your point, I think the opposite is very true. If your social media isn't great, or you're on there doing, we'll use the word inappropriate things, and people can decide what that means to them, but it could also work against you. It's like people are just looking for that little piece of validation to kind of check you out. Who doesn't Google every single person they're about to meet that they don't know? Who doesn't Google a restaurant before they go to it, or a resort, or, we're just nosy as a culture. And if someone else vouches for it, that helps. If I saw it somewhere multiple times, or multiple people are vouching for it, or if it landed in my feed multiple times, great. If I like what I saw on their social, great. But the opposite is true too. If I don't like what I'm seeing at first glance, that's probably a big strike against you. And it's just a legitimizer that people need to be mindful of. It may not be the golden ticket. But let's talk about podcasts. What are you seeing in terms of trends with podcasts, in terms of people wanting to have a podcast, and just the value of a podcast for a business?
Yeah, well, I could talk about this all day, because I think podcasting is like such a secret art where a lot of people, and I don't know, Marissa, if you felt like this when you were launching, but do you feel like maybe you had the thought of like, everybody has a podcast? I don't know if you had this thought.
Hello. I was like, everybody is an executive coach. Everybody talks about leadership, and everybody has a podcast. So yes, that was exactly how I still feel that way, but I just ignore it now.
You're like, everybody does all of these things, and so I should too.
I am officially on the bandwagon. Yes.
Yeah. So podcasting is one of those things that everybody thinks everybody has one, but the truth of it is the amount of active podcasts on Apple, it's like less than 450,000, which you think about it like worldwide, that's like quite large.
Yeah.
But the other, like I produce 40 of those. So then the other piece of it is that, it feels oversaturated. People feel that. But what it is the most amazing two things. Most amazing tool for long form content. So if you are
Mm-hmm.
a thought leader or somebody, like yourself, Marissa, where somebody's going to work like with you and they're going to be coached by you, it is like the best way that people are able to see your vibe, right?
Yes.
They listen to your podcast, they're like, wow, Marissa's so insightful and she's so smart. I knew she was cute, but now I know all of
Oh,
this.
stop it.
And so then they can go all in on this. So
Yes.
we've seen this many times where I'll do like a podcast and someone will come for a discovery call and they're like, I've listened to every single one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow, that's nuts. Like, that's not how I would have used my time. And they're like, no, it was a great way for me to see if like you guys were a fit. I love your philosophies. I love
Mm-hmm.
this. I love that. So you're able to really, really be able to get to know somebody. It's very intimate. And you have to remember with podcasting, people are choosing you. Like, over anything else. So when you're like in the pickup line, when you're doing the dishes, when you're on your walk with your doggo, like, when you're looking for inspiration, like those people are turning to you.
Yeah.
And so that is like one, a huge honor and privilege, but two, the piece on that is that you can't do that with an Instagram post.
Right.
Like you can't do that on LinkedIn. You're not going to be like, oh, I'm sad. I want to view my favorite person's Instagram. Like that's not typically the approach, or I'm feeling like demotivated, or I'm feeling like I need some inspo. The second thing is that podcasting is like the largest networking hack. And I
Mm-hmm.
like literally no one will ever convince me out of this in any way. I'm like, I have a closed opinion on this and I've never closed opinions because it's truly one of those things where you get to have a platform where you get to have amazing conversations with people you probably wouldn't have had access to, right? Like
Totally.
why would like even I think about my mentors. I've had conversations with people who had crazy exits who like have been amazing, who charge $5,000 an hour for a coaching session. But I got to talk to them one on one on my podcast because I lent them my audience, which
Yes.
is very valuable.
Yes.
And so you get the opportunity to do that. I've had power partners come from it where they've been referral partners after. I've met people who have turned into clients. Like, so many good things can come from it. Just from having the conversation, right? And you have the opportunity to then borrow the audience of all the people who listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a few podcasts I've been on that have led to like great growth in our membership or great growth in our community or like high vibe women because they listen and then they kind of like my vibe, I guess, and then
Yeah.
they're in, right? And
Yeah.
so it's really, really like I think such a magical tool.
I agree. I mean, those are my two reasons. Even though I put up three fingers, if you're watching, those are my two, three finger options. No, I agree. I think for me, when I was trying to put myself out there and tell the world what I was up to, not just my podcast, but just my relaunch of my career and my business, I wasn't comfortable taking 2 to 4 pictures a day and putting them on social with captions and sharing all the insights of my life. And I honestly didn't think that's how you were really going to get to know me, or if you wanted to buy into anything I had to say. Like, if you were going to pay me money to help coach you and really help improve your life, I think you need to hear a little bit more from me and hear my style and hear what I stand for. And to me, this was the greatest way to showcase myself. And to your point, I've had conversations with amazing people like you that I probably would not have had in terms of such a focused hour of getting to know them and hearing their thoughts and sharing conversation. And I've made some wonderful connections. And I don't think any of that would have been as possible without the podcast. So yeah, huge win to be able to foster conversations and get people to know you for you in kind of the most authentic way.
Totally. And even from like a pragmatic perspective, if someone's
Yeah.
listening to this and they're like, oh, like, networking tool, like, yay, but like as a content tool as well, like even like the amount of like content you can get from one episode, like it's
Yes.
growing and growing and growing, right? Like even with AI and the way AI is working now, like our tool, we home edit everything, but like even just thinking about like dropping a transcript in ChatGPT and asking it like to write you an email, like
Right.
things like that. I would not recommend using the email as is. Like please edit
You
your
still
chat.
must proofread. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
please do it. All the time whenever I use ChatGPT for myself, it has like so many emojis. I was like, I don't talk like this. I'm like,
I
last
this
video,
is not me. You don't know me
yeah,
at all.
I'm always like a little offended by it. I'm like, oh, so mean. But it's just really like such a great content play as well. So if you're looking to show up in like many places, it's a really great way to like get that content. But at the core of it, like the people you meet are just amazing. And I was so lucky to have you on my podcast.
Well, thank you.
And I and it's like grown our relationship and like, so it's so amazing to be able to have the conversations.
Yeah, it fosters some nice focused conversation and connection, and I love that. So you talk about well, you've talked to, I should say, you have your own podcast community, and you've talked to a lot of amazing people. You are out and about. I mean, you were on a plane somewhere every weekend, I swear. Since I
For a
started
while, yeah.
following you, you were moving a lot. I mean, you're not going too far these days because
No.
you are with child. But you've been around a lot of people who arguably people would say are successful. And you yourself have probably experienced a lot of success depending on what that means to you. And I want to talk about that a little bit. How do you define success? And then I'm curious if your definition has changed over time.
That's a great question. It's interesting because I think it has changed over time and it's becoming more and more clear to me what it is. I think when you start becoming an entrepreneur, especially because we were kind of digital entrepreneurs at the beginning, now we have an office and we like do a lot of local stuff, but it's really easy to get like kind of bogged down by the yachts, like, where people are like in their private jets and their yachts, they have their 7 figures in 6 months, they do all these things and to always feel a little behind.
Mm,
And so something that Maria and I have always really tried to do is celebrate like every win. Like we laugh
yeah,
about this. I was on a podcast yesterday and I said this too. Like we're doing our first online summit and somebody bought a ticket and it was like $39. And I was like, we're $39 richer. Like, yeah. And like, we're like, the team was like celebrating $39, but like we have like a 7 figure
amazing.
business. So it's like the $39 is like not really like moving the needle.
$39 is $39.
Right? Who's
Yes.
complaining? It's like
Yes.
Starbucks. But what I was gonna say is that like it really like I think what has defined or like has been my definition of success to this point has changed because I think at the beginning we were very numbers focused and it was
Mm,
very like, I want to make $1 million. I want to do this. Like I want to impact this many businesses. I want to do that. Like, and now I'm so much more in the flow of like, I think success is going to look like freedom for me. Like,
yeah.
and I think being able to take some time off and being able to contribute to people's livelihoods. Like, I love our employees and I like love to give them raises and I
Yeah.
love to like see them grow in their careers. And like, that's been such a gift. And like, so I'm really trying to like lean into more of the kind of emotional piece of what success feels like. And I'm starting to see it more because it is really easy when you're in it to be so in comparison of others. Um, and it's so funny because then I also, as our business has grown, I've seen people do that with me. And that's a weird thing to talk about where it's like, I'm like, oh, like people think I'm so successful. I don't mean it like that. But it's been interesting where people like, even when I speak somewhere or like, and people write like an intro for me or something. And I'm like, oh, it's really interesting that these are the things that you think
Right. Yeah.
are what make me successful, because what I feel like makes me the most successful is like I'm like the richest community. Like I
Mhm.
have like anybody looking for anything I could probably make an introduction for.
Yeah.
Like I like can stop work literally right after this if I wanted to and do whatever I wanted and my business would still run, and
Yeah.
like that's richness for me. But I wouldn't have said that probably even a year ago.
Yeah. Time gives you so much perspective on that. I think my definition has evolved. I know it has evolved over time too. I do think there's an element to high performers and business owners that there's always an element of numbers. I mean, you need to keep track of numbers. You need to generally know where you're at, but these are markers, and there's so much that happens between this number and that number, right? There's so much
Yeah.
that happens between this milestone and that milestone. And you're right, celebrating the wins is so important. And I was so bad at that for years. Arguably, I don't know if I'm much better, but I am better. I'm probably not as good as I should be, but there's so much magic in acknowledging and celebrating the wins. And I always encourage people to do that. It doesn't have to be a massive celebration, but even just pausing and saying, oh, that was good. That was, it's funny. There's this activity that I like where I ask high performers every day just to write a big win, a today's win on a piece of paper. And obviously every day is not going to look the same. Some days are going to feel like big wins. Other days you're probably going to be grasping for what the win is. Throw them in a jar. If you're having a bad day, just pull one out. At the end of the year, read all of these wins. And it's not a long project. It takes a couple minutes, if that, to do it. But it is those little moments between the milestones and the numbers that you start to really kind of lean into. And yeah, it's advice for everybody, right? Life's going to happen, and you need to enjoy it today. And if you don't enjoy it, what's fueling you to want to move towards that next number? Like that next number is just going to be another number. That next material thing is just going to be a material thing. And it is funny when you talk about optics, right? When people will say things to you, and again, it sounds like you're bragging, but oh, you look so successful. But it's funny because it's funny the things that really resonate to me. Like you tell this story about how when you came to golf and you were eating dinner at a restaurant and you said you were going to Marissa Teeter's podcast launch, or are you going to a podcast launch, and someone said, "Oh my God, is it Marissa Teeter?" And then you then referred to me as the mayor of Guelph.
Yeah.
And now I'm retelling the whole story, that just because I'm so modest. I loved hearing that because to me, I love making connections everywhere. And if you introduced me as Marissa Teeter, the person that loves to make people feel seen and will carry on a conversation with a lady at the grocery store for 10 minutes and irritate everybody behind them, that's me. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud that I say hello to everybody and people are like, do you know that person? I'm like, no. Or my kids are like, oh, you're so embarrassing, mom. Like, why are you talking to this lady? And I want that to be the thing that I'm known for. All the other stuff, and there was a time that all the other stuff mattered to me, but it's not really what matters as much anymore.
Honestly, I think that's beautiful. And I think that that's the beauty of like reputation, right? And the
Mm.
beauty of like as we grow and as we figure out like that's important to me as well as that like something that comes up for me all the time. And again, not to lack of humility over here,
You
but
should
like
brag. You should go do it.
people are always like, you're so nice.
You are so
Like,
nice.
but I'm
And you're
like,
so funny. We're going to talk about that too. But go
but
ahead.
I'm like, this is just normal to be nice. Like I had a scalp massage recently and the woman
Oh,
like
I want to
10
do
times
that so bad.
you must. I'll tell you the place is the best.
Okay.
But the woman was like, she would like do something. I'd be like, thank you. Thank you. And like 1 minute in, she was like, you do not need to say thank you. And I was like, yeah, I do. Like you're performing a service and like
Yes.
I'm a customer and like that's the right thing to do. And then at the end, she's like, you're so nice. And I was like, what happens here? Like what? Like, are people mean to you? Like, are you okay? Like, but it's just, that's something I really take pride in is that like, I want people to know that like, I'm someone that like you could talk to about anything and that
Yes.
I'm like, I make
You
people
really
feel
are.
comfortable. Right. And like, that's important to me. And I think we want our reputations to precede us. And I think, you know, when people become more successful, I do find that there is a level of like distance that people kind of create from you a bit. Like
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, oh, I'm like, I always laugh like at High Vibe Women because at the end, like people take photos with us, and I always find it so uncomfortable because I'm like I'm Beyonce or something, and even like I was
You
like
are.
I'm trying to like get off the stage, and Maria's like, we have to take these photos, like we
Yes,
like
you do. Yeah.
it's the right thing to do, and I'm like I don't want to because it like there's like I don't need that level of like um. I'm using the word fame is not the
Yeah.
word, but like you know I
Attention. You
don't
don't need that attention to
exactly
validate.
yes
Yeah.
yeah, but I'm
It's
I'm
so
just so
funny.
happy that these women had a great time, and so they'd come up and take a photo, and I'd be like, "Do you want the photo with us, or like, do you want to take a picture on the stage so it looks
Do
like you
you want me
spoke?"
to
Like,
take the photo? Give me the
yeah,
camera.
like
I'll take the photo.
100%, that's me. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's like as you know as we grow our success, and I think you know for both of us, Marissa, like keeping close to that as much as possible. Where it's
Yeah.
like I always want to be someone that anyone can talk to. I never want to like
Mm-hmm.
and I have seen the shift as, you know, it's become more public that our business is a seven-figure business or like things like that, where I have seen a bit more of a distance. And, yeah, I hope I never want that to change. Like
Yeah.
I always want people to feel like they could talk to us.
I think it's a big part of community too, right? Is just that idea of, and you mentioned being so nice, but I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were making the distinction between being nice and being kind. And I think there was, the idea was like, you know, generally most people can be nice, but to be truly kind, it's like this deep embedded thing in you where there's a real kindness there. And yeah, I think that's a big part of being an entrepreneur. I think that's a big part of finding success in life is truly showing kindness. And you talked about a big part of your definition of success is being able to spread it and being able to share it and being able to see it in others and give it to others. And I think that's a huge lesson too. I'm curious, let's go back to you being funny. I was going to say, do you realize how funny you are? And like, how do you answer that question? Yes, I think I'm hilarious. But um, I have to say, there's something about, and I just had a conversation with a guest that I just recorded with Tyler Champagne. We talked about using humor to really connect and to really engage with people, to really get a message across, like how powerful comedy and humor can be. What are your thoughts on that? Do you acknowledge, like, I don't want to say, do you know you're funny, but do you consciously leverage
No.
your humor, or no, you don't? It's not a conscious thing. Or do you see using it as like a crutch or a tool or what is it with your humor? Cause you're very funny.
I'll take this. The amount of people in the last few weeks have told me I should do stand up as my next career.
Yes.
So like stay tuned. You know what? I don't use it in any particular way, but what I will say, I think it is part of my like in full circle to this conversation, like part of my like Dawn vibe. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Is that like I have always my orientation leader vibe. Like it's the like golden retriever in me. Like I just want people to feel comfortable. Like, and
Yes.
that's always been, and I think more than that, like it's like like I, you know, can make fun of myself. I can make fun of other things. Like that's fine. I can find humor in almost anything, which I think is
Mhm.
important, especially, you know, in this climate. Like it's like we
Yes,
got to laugh.
lean into that. Yes.
But I think one of the things that's really like I've also leaned in a lot, and I think um is something that I noticed about myself is that like I could probably talk to anybody, you
Yeah.
know, and that is something that I think is a skill that it might even be better than me being kind of humorous, is that like I could sit next to anybody at a dinner, and even though I'm uncomfortable, like I will ask 100 questions and I can keep it
Right.
going for hours and like whatever. So I think no, I don't do it intentionally, but I do notice that it like it helps. You know, do I
Yeah.
help?
Listen, I've had conversations with people before that talk about how they try to not censor. That's because they probably should censor your humor. But they try to kind of tone down their humor in professional settings. And I'm like, no, it's such a beautiful thing to connect and to create engagement with people and to lighten the mood or to
Yeah.
relay a message that sticks with people because you used humor as kind of the medium. No, I love that. This is a leadership podcast. It's not a hard hitting leadership podcast. I do see you as a leader. You build community, you're building a business, you're helping other people build their businesses. How do you define a leader, or, what is some of the best leadership advice that you've received or given?
Mm. Yeah, so it's I think as my background originally was in leadership and
Yes.
like doing all of that, and I still see myself as a leader in many ways. It's funny, I was cleaning out my books the other day from my master's, and I was like, oh, I used to like read leisurely, like I forgot about this.
Oh, reading for
Uh,
fun. What is
yeah,
that? Yeah.
personal development, crazy. And I think like where I exercise leadership most is with my team, and where I get to do that is like I think like really trying my best to be a servant leader and being someone who like
Mm,
is a role model, and like I'm willing to do anything that they're willing to do, and being kind of in that, and I'm never kind of above any task. And that's kind of the way that I kind of grew up. But really I think when it comes to like being a business owner and being a leader, I think it's like about going first.
mm,
And I think that that's something that a lot of people don't do. I say it about social, I say it about everything, that it's like we're people who um, often we have a lot of expectations of others, and then we lessen the expectations of ourselves. And, you know, I'm not telling people to like beat themselves up or like berate themselves, because I don't think we need any more like self sadness. But I think if we're expecting from other people, like we should be the first to
mm.
show up. And so if we're like wanting like, you know, more people to be participating in the things we're doing, like how are we showing up in community? Like how are we building community? I always say if you want to be more comments on your Instagram post, why aren't you commenting? Like,
Yeah.
and I think that that's something that sometimes gets lost a little, is like we have really high expectations of other people. And I think when we hold ourselves to a high standard of how we can show up as and be leaders, sometimes that's what I think where the magic happens.
I love that. Going first. I mean, it's a good lesson for all of us too, right? Be brave, bet on yourself, and just do the thing. And don't expect others to do things that you're not willing to do. I don't know. That's one that I think people get the title, they get the
Yeah.
opportunity, and they think, well, I don't have to do those things anymore. And I think that's the funniest part, is that you may have to do more of it, or you're going to be the backup should it really need to be done and no one's around to do it, right? If you're running a business
Yeah.
and the toilet's being cleaned and there's no one to clean the toilets, well, guess what? It's going to be you. That, as the leader, that is now your responsibility. So what's next for you? Yes, you're about to have a baby,
Yeah.
but what are some big bucket list items? What are some things that you've got planned for Kristina's future?
Yeah, I think for us right now, the big focus is like obviously I'm hoping to take a bit of time, my family, but other than that, High Vibe Women has been like really
Yeah.
a huge priority for us. And so we have our event on October 18th in Burlington. It's looking like we're gonna have an Ottawa event before the end of the year as
Ooh,
well. So we're really excited
excellent.
about that.
That's
You heard,
amazing.
yeah, you heard it here first, guys. And yeah, so it looks like we're gonna have an Ottawa event, which we're excited about. And then really on the agency side, just really want to, as much as possible, just impact people and help them grow their communities. So really like I'm taking the next 6 months to relax on the speaking engagements and like relax on all the things. But we'll see what 2026 brings.
That's amazing. Well, I'm so excited for you. I can't wait to see Kristina, mom in action, and all that that brings to the table and how you show up. And really grateful for all the work that you do. And I encourage people to go check out the High Vibe Women events to go see what's happening, join, show up. You are amazing at building community. Your podcast community is also incredible. And all this will be in the show notes. And people should really just get to know you. You're a good person to know. I am grateful to have you in my community. And I want to thank you for all your support for my business too, because you've made wonderful introductions and you've done such a good job with my podcast. And and I couldn't be more thankful. So I'm not letting you go without doing some rapid fires.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, do you want to stretch? Do we want to like? No, just kidding. Okay. What is the most Canadian thing about you?
Oh my goodness. I have like an extreme love for maple syrup.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's good. Good
Like
thing you
even
didn't
on
say
meat.
poutine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even on what? What do you put maple syrup on?
Like breakfast sausage and like
Oh
bacon.
yeah. The salty sweet. I can get behind that.
Yeah, thank you.
What is your favorite hobby or pastime and all that spare time I'm sure you don't have?
Oh my gosh. You know what's so sad? It's knitting sometimes. Sometimes I
Ooh.
like love to knit, but it never ends. Like I don't knit anything. It's
Oh,
just
that's
I
okay.
sit there and I like think about my life choices. So
I have a client who said they started knitting so that they would stay off their phone and so they wouldn't smoke.
fair enough. I've never been into smoking, but maybe that's what's keeping me off.
But
Is
that is
knitting.
what, see, you're welcome, knitting. What is the weirdest pregnancy craving that you've had so far? Or
Oh,
just cake
salami.
craving? Oh yeah, we
Salami.
talked about this.
Yeah, we talked about this on my podcast. Like I literally ate like a thing of salami in the car and I was like,
Yeah,
no remorse. Sorry, everyone listening to this, no
I know.
remorse.
Why do we do our best eating in our car? Like, I don't
I,
understand. Dark parking lots is where, in the corner of dark parking lots in my car, is where I do the best eating. Listen, my dad's Italian. He makes his own salami. It's all full of good stuff. I'll hook you up. You let me
yeah.
know when you're having one of those cravings.
Yeah, I'll come for you.
Um, if there is any person or company in the world that you could collaborate with, who would it be?
I don't know. Goodness, these are such good questions. I'm like,
The hard hitting ones, you know?
I don't know. I kind of feel like Brene Brown.
Oh, yeah, good
I don't
call.
know what I would want to do with her. Like I'd have to really figure it out. But like she does such
With
impactful work that
salami?
I feel like I would yeah. Get her to come speak it out my woman. Renee, this is my official ask. But no, yeah, I think Brene Brown.
Yeah. No, she's amazing. I mean, she's fantastic. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure. Obviously, this has been long overdue, but it finally happened and you delivered as always. I wish you all the best. People need to go find you. All the information will be in the show notes. And I look forward to collaborating in some fashion, in some capacity again with you very soon. Thank you, Kristina.
Thank you so much for having me. So fun.
Thank you.